Imagine being awake for 5 days straight, and the moment you close your eyes is the moment that you lose your life. 7 people volunteer to test a new drug from a shady company, but it turns out the drug is the farthest thing from a lifesaver. This is the 2023 movie, Double Blind. After a rat gets decapitated, we cut to a slideshow of a voice thanking people for participating in a drug trial from a company named Blackwood. Then we meet our protagonist, Claire, looking homeless as she makes her way to her living quarters for the clinical trial and receives a new set of clothes. She is lying on the bed when a smiling girl named Allison introduces herself to Claire and another girl, Vanessa. Vanessa ignores her and Claire politely ignores her. The scene shifts to the entire group of participants. There are 7 in total: Amir, Ray, Paul, Marcus, and the 3 girls we already met. Ray complains of a lack of cell service, and Paul tells him that Blackwood needs the trial to be a secret. Then a doctor named Burke comes and announces the start of the trial drug BRN-14 and calls it a double-blind trial, which means that neither she nor the participants know what's going to happen with the medicine. The trial will take a total of 5 days. At the start, the drugs will be administered at 25 milliliters, and then the dosage will increase to 85 milliliters by day 5. Plus, they're not allowed to go outside. They all get the pills, and the trial starts, and they all take the medicine. Claire joins the rest of them for dinner. She meets Ray and Paul, and she tells them that she's homeless, which is why she needs the morning. Vanessa then walks off dismissively. Ray tells her that Vanessa was raised by religious fanatics. They treated her terribly, and it made her selectively mute. Next, we see Claire answering standard questions about the drug. They even force her to pee 6 times in a row. She goes back to her room, and Allison tries to show her a photo of her cat and starts asking about her tattoos. Allison is one of those people who just doesn't shut up. Claire almost screams at her and notices she's about to throw up. She runs to the bathroom, and after relieving herself, she meets Amir, who tells her about the drug being made for all sorts of things: heart pain, depression, liver failure, and a bunch of other things. He also states that he's an aspiring doctor who applied for a summer internship job at Blackwood, and he joined this trial to prove that he's a team player, but knows he's not sure what he's gotten himself into. Claire starts having difficulty sleeping. She goes out of her room and finds out the other guys have the same problem, and they start panicking. Then we see Burke reassuring Amir that it's just a bit of insomnia. Amir tells her that if she needs help, he's there, but she ignores him. Then the entire crew gathered near a tree, and it's been 30 hours since they slept. Allison and Claire play chess, and Claire notices that Allison is into Paul. Meanwhile, Dr. Burke is complaining to the higher-ups that the drug is affecting the nervous system of the participants, and it's causing brain inflammation, rapid brain inflammation, and it starts troubling the higher-ups. Dr. Burke then tells the group that the aim of the experiment has shifted. Now they're trying to find out how long the group can stay awake, so none of them should go to sleep. She leaves and ignores Amir as he tries to talk to her again. Poor Amir. Claire does an MRI scan and then starts getting claustrophobic, and remembers being locked in a dark room as a child, and she starts screaming. Back in her room, Allison cheers her up by humming the Tetris theme song, and it does cheer her up, and they start getting along. When they get the pills the next day, they start complaining that the dose is way more than the allotted dose that was agreed upon, so they refuse to take it. Burke informs them that an additional £30,000 has been added to each of their payments. So they agree they probably would have done it for 10. They start celebrating. Allison even forces Claire to dance, but soon she starts feeling tired, and so do the rest of them. Dr. Burke notices this, calls the guys in charge, and says they need to stop the trials because their immune system is atrociously failing, but the guys tell her to continue and to even up the dosage. We cut to the group talking about what they'll do with the money. Claire says she'll use the money to get a place to live, and Allison asks if they can live together. Claire tells her no and asks if she has any real friends. Allison gets upset and leaves. Meanwhile, Amir breaks into Burke's office and starts copying all the data from the test to a hard drive. And he notices the alarming results. This is when things start to get crazy. Claire tries to apologize to Allison, and she notices that she's fallen asleep. When she tries to wake her up, Allison starts bleeding from all openings, and she dies. They all start freaking out as Burke watches. Suddenly, all the lights in the facility turn red, and a voice reveals that the building is going into lockdown. Burke starts running, and so do the rest of them. Burke runs towards one of the big doors, which has some metal extensions. As she tries to pass through, one of the extensions impales her, and she's stuck there in agony. Yeah, it looks very painful to watch. The guys manage to free her, but she dies almost immediately. The doors close shut, and the clock starts counting down from 24 hours. Amir shows up and tells them all he's seen. He says that they can't go to sleep because the moment they do, they'll all end up like Allison. The drugs have affected their brain, so if they fall asleep, their brain will shut down. He tells them that the facility is sealed for 24 hours and there's no way of getting out. Amir gives them each 5 smelling salts, and Ray uses one of his immediately. Amir also tells them not to take any stimulants like coffee or aspirin. He compares their situation to having a car on fire, but you can still drive. Using any stimulant is like adding fuel to the flame. The good news is their condition is completely treatable, but they have to stay awake for a day until the lockdown ends. Paul starts documenting everything happening, while Marcus tries running around. Amir does a scan on Claire's brain while she's still spooked by Allison's demise. Amir looks at her scans and sees that things are getting worse, so he stops looking. Claire starts hearing voices and tries to record a message for her mum, and that's when we find out that her mum is a hospital patient with a ruined liver, and she's not been willing to see her mum because of how she was treated as a kid. She cries during the message and then deletes it. By this time, Ray has run out of smelling salts and starts asking everyone for one of theirs, but they don't give it to him. He starts trying to play into Vanessa's religious beliefs, and she angrily tells him that she doesn't believe in God because of her upbringing. While Amir is running all the tests, he starts hallucinating Burke's body coming back to life, and Claire, on the other hand, is staring at a wall, trying to stay awake. Marcus wakes her up, and he seems to be doing well despite the situation. He tells her how he survived an accident by walking with a broken leg during the cold, so this is nothing. Claire starts looking into the test results, and she notices her file. The Blackwood's description of her is a loner who can be used for experiments, so that makes her sad, but it turns out that's what they all are. Claire walks in on Vanessa, trying to put her hand in an open flame. She tells Claire she hasn't had an easy life, but she doesn't want it to end yet. Claire agrees. We cut to Marcus brushing his teeth, and he notices that every sound he makes is delayed. He leaves the bathroom, and suddenly he's all alone, and the lockdown doors open to a dark room. He goes in and walks off, and that's when we see that he fell asleep, and now he's gone. And then there were 5. Amir tries to get them to stay positive, while Claire gets double vision. She makes her way to the kitchen and puts her hand in an open flame, which wakes her up. "Damn, girl, your hand is all seared." She runs to the group with renewed energy and tells them they have to find a way out, and they decide to break down one of the walls that will lead to the outside. Amir tells them it won't work, but they do it anyway. They all get an axe, and they take turns breaking into the wall, but when they get to the other side, there's still a metal barring like the one at the door. They get frustrated. Claire leaves to talk to Amir, while Ray starts questioning how Ray knows everything about Blackwood, and he suspects that Amir is working with Blackwood and that Amir has not been taking the drug. Claire meets Amir, and he gives her a letter and reveals that he was the one who caused the lockdown. Back then, when he was trying to copy the test results, he gets sad. She tells him to come up with an idea, anything that can help, and something she says gives him an idea. It's some science mumbo-jumbo that no one understands, but he has some sort of solution. So yay, Claire meets Paul on the outside, and Paul shows her that Amir has been taking the stimulants he told them not to take. Then the lights go off and it gets dark. Claire and Paul go find the fuse, while Claire starts hearing voices and hallucinating Allison's body until she finds the switch and flips it. And the lights come on. She finds Paul passed out on the floor, and she revives him with a smelling salt. Back in the lab, Amir walks in to meet Claire and Paul. They start interrogating him about the lights going off and the bottle of empty pills they found. He denies any foul play, but Vanessa and Ray walk in, and Ray punches him and accuses him of turning off the lights. Ray and Paul tie him to a pole. Ray accuses him of working for Blackwood and decides to torture the answers out of him with a knife, and everyone except Claire and Paul agrees. As Ray is about to, Claire tells them that Amir has a way to help. Amir tells them he can guide them into making the solution drug. Ray refuses to take it, but Claire volunteers and Paul makes it under his instruction. Meanwhile, Vanessa confronts Ray, and she tells him she saw him trip the fuse. He says he did it to expose Amir. Then she tells him that she has a sedative, and if he distracts the others, she'll inject the sedative to make him sleep so they'll know if he took the drug. Amir and Claire bond about leaving the place when this is all over, and how much Claire wants to see the sun. Paul finishes making the drug and he takes the drug to inject Claire. Vanessa tries to carry out the plan, but she falls and dies in the process, and goes into that black room like Marcus. Except in hers, she sees a devil with horns. Guess she should have believed in God. We see Vanessa seizing, and Paul tries to inject her with the drug, but her seizing body breaks it. And the beaker containing the rest of the drug falls and breaks, and Amir starts laughing and tells them that they're just data on a spreadsheet and that they're all going to die. Claire leaves to see how much time they have left, but all she sees is good night on the timer. She starts hearing voices again and records another message for her mom and gets very emotional. She tries to take a smelling salt to stay awake, but she falls and then starts floating. I guess not sleeping can do a lot of things to you. She finally uses the salt and it wakes her up. She notices a hidden door, goes to tell the others, and tells Amir that she will be back for him, and they will tell the world their story. They break into the hidden door and find an autopsy room, and inside of that they find an elevator. Amir starts seeing Burke's dead body, and she tells him to take control of the experiment with the knife close to him. Ray sits at Vanessa's side and notices Amir's notes about causing the lockdown. He gets angry and tells Amir that he's going to take his life before he dies. Meanwhile, Paul tells Claire that they should think about themselves and escape together. But then they hear Amir's scream. Ray tries to stab Amir, but Amir breaks out of his binds and stabs him instead. Then he takes the other knife and continues stabbing him repeatedly. Paul and Claire walk in, and he starts chasing them with the intent to stab. He's a very stabby person. They run away from Amir. Paul gets into a room and locks Claire out, while Claire runs to the MRI room. And when Amir tries to stab her, the knife gets stuck in the MRI. Yeah, the M in MRI stands for magnetic. Duh. Paul walks into the elevator and turns it on, but sadly it's not an elevator, but an incineration chamber, and he gets burnt alive. Claire runs out of the room, and Amir still chases her, but they both fall and are about to pass out, and at that moment, the lockdown ends, and the doors open. Amir goes outside and sees a bunch of guys with weapons, and they shoot him. Claire notices that these guys are here to take all of them out in body bags. She sneaks to the entrance, takes some of Amir's blood, rubs her face, and hides in the last body bag. The guys inspect her, and she's cleared. They throw the bodies in the back of a van. Claire manages to climb out, and when the drivers see her, they're spooked, and they get into an accident. Claire gets out of the van and lays on the road. 4 months later, Claire is in a coma, and on the news it is revealed that Blackwood Pharmaceuticals has been under investigation over the incident. But they have been cleared of all charges because they blamed it all on Dr. Burke. But at that moment, Claire's eyes fly open.